What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here to talk a little baseball. I was digging in. I knew this was coming. And I was just kind of curious to see who was going to be impacted it the most. For those of you that do not know, baseball is shifting some rules around this year. Pun intended on that one. We'll get there in a second. One, a more aggressive pitch clock. We're not going to get into the nitty gritty. Slightly larger bases, and they are banning the shift. This potentially, once again, potentially, we don't really know for sure, should have an impact on a handful of hitters. And also potentially stolen bases. There's a lot of people thinking steals are going to get a big increase from both the pitch clock stuff and how many times they can throw over for pickoff attempts and all that kind of jazz, and then the bases being slightly bigger. But this shift has really had an effect on a lot of hitters, specifically lefty power hitters that have a high ground ball rate are the ones most drastically affected by this. And I am by no means saying run out and buy every player on this list or these guys are all going to have monster seasons and go to the moon. I just thought it was kind of interesting to run down one of these lists and see if any names popped out that could be intriguing from a card perspective that maybe get a little bit better season than what they have the last couple years because of the shift. So I'll link to this article in the description of the video. This I found on Rotoballer. Fantasy baseball websites have some of the best information for stuff like this. He does an absolutely great breakdown here. This was written by John Anderson. Has a lot of good data and stuff, and he has a nice little handy chart right here. Ground balls on shift data, how many hits that they had and what their batting average was, or ground balls hit while a shift is on, how many hits they actually got and what their batting average was through that. So you can kind of scroll through that list and kind of see the names that pop out. He runs through an example down below for Corey Seager specifically, and obviously, a bunch of sample size nonsense, but just to give you an idea, hypothetically, what could happen. I think, and I'm going to play fast and loose with the numbers here, so don't quote me on any of this stuff. But basically, Corey Seager hit like 241, and if you got rid of the shift and implied, what his numbers would look like without a shift, he would have hit 271. It was like a 32 point. I might have the individual numbers wrong, but it was about 30 points in average that he would have hit better, assuming there was no shift in place. That's a big chunk of batting average. The reason I use Seager is because he is one of the most extremes. You can see on this list there, he had 182 balls hit and only hit 137 on those. Now that shift goes away. You normalize that rate out for what it would be. The thing that we don't know is how MLB teams are going to react to all this. I'm sure they'll make other changes and adjustments. So that's why you don't want to put like a ton of stock into this. But it's an interesting angle to look at with the baseball season creeping up on us. So I, looked down these names here, and a couple of them really jumped out at me. Like Ohtani's on here. He didn't jump out at me. His average was 253 already. His stuff is already super hyped. So I don't know if there's any need to like use this as data to potentially bump him up. I wanted to look more at guys that used to be really good or used to be very popular and have kind of been on the scrap heap the last few years, or just haven't gotten as much hobby love. And then one player that maybe this potentially takes him to even another level. So let's go ahead and run through these really quickly. Don't put a ton of stock into the current prices on this. I'm actually recording this video about a week ahead. So these prices could shift by the time you all are watching this. So just kind of keep that in mind. I am recording this a few days ahead of time. Normally I record the night before, but I have a very insane week at work. So I'm trying to get a little bit ahead on stuff. So these prices could shift a little bit at the time that you are all watching this. First up on the list is Corey Seager. I pulled him because he was the one that was most drastically affected by the shift in particular. So if that goes away, you would think he would have a pretty decent rebound overall. Once again, not saying run out and buy any of these guys. In fact, most of these guys, I am not sitting on eBay trolling for cards looking for them. There are two that intrigue me that I am looking at, but I'm not running out and buying every one of these guys. But like I said, I just thought these were kind of interesting names. First up is Corey Seager, like I said, for the reasons we just talked about. And his stuff's dirt cheap. 2016 Topps Chrome Refractor, $55. That's in a PSA 10. PSA 10 Prism Refractor, $70. I pulled up some of his autos. None of them had sold super recently. The ones that did sold for very reasonable prices. But part of the problem, and you're going to find this as a theme across this list, their current sold prices might be cheap. It's hard to find cards priced at recent comps for a lot of these guys. A lot of the buy it nows were way higher than what they are currently selling for. So you kind of have to wait out an auction or maybe find something locally at a show. So once again, not saying to run out and go buy these guys. Do your own research, all the standard, rules, and, think about this stuff on your own apply here. I just thought this was kind of some interesting names to go over. So Seager is number 1. Number 2, Kyle Tucker. I do like Kyle Tucker. I don't own any of his stuff currently. I may or may not have searched some eBay listings for Kyle Tucker stuff. He had a really good year last year, as is. So if the shift going away helps him even more, he could have a monster season. His stuff is reasonably priced. His PSA 10 rookie auto refractor last sold for $200 in a PSA 10. That seems reasonable. His first Bowman in a PSA 10 goes for about $400. X-Fractor in a PSA 10 is under $100. Prism Refractor, $75. And his baseline, just Topps Chrome Refractor in a PSA 10, is only $50. That was the other thing that was kind of appealing to me, on this little exercise, was the price point on a lot of these guys' cards was extremely reasonable. So if you're going to take a gamble and, pick up a couple Corey Seager refractors for $50 a pop, if you could find them at a show or something, it's not like there's not a lot of downside risk there, I guess is what I'm getting at. Is there risk? Always, but when you're only talking about $50 cards, it limits your downside to a degree. Next one up is his teammate Jordan Alvarez, popped up on this list. He hit, I should put this up for reference. So Seager was at 137 batting average into this shift. Kyle Tucker was at 165. Jordan Alvarez was at 167. Alvarez has the DH thing going against him, but he just absolutely smashes the baseball. So if he could get that batting average up a little bit with the shift going away, and his stuff also fairly affordable. PSA 10, just base refractor, $65. His Sapphire PSA 10, $250. PSA 10 rookie auto, $200. That's one that I went to go look at to potentially try to buy one, and there was none even listed close to that price. Prism Refractor PSA 10, $130. X-Fractor, $170 in a PSA 10. Seems very reasonable. Pop $300 on that X-Fractor. $550 on the Prism. So nothing super expensive there, especially when you're talking about his baseline refractor at $65. Once again, has DH thing going against him, has some knee troubles. Potentially, he didn't really have that pop up too much last season, but absolutely just a killer of the baseball. Next one, Cody Bellinger. Whoo, boy. He has not played super well lately. His is 208 into the shift, so not a train wreck like Seager's was, but not great, and he could use all the help he could get lately. His stuff has gotten extremely affordable. He had some monster years just a couple years ago, and he has really tailed off the last couple. PSA 10 rookie auto, $200. PSA 10 Topps Chrome Refractor. This is numbered out of 250 for $175. Prism Refractor, $60. His first Bowman in a PSA 10 is $400, and a BGS 9.5, it's $150. Low pops on all this stuff because you're talking about 2017, 2015 for the Bowman auto. And once again, this is another one that you need to wait out an auction or try to find something locally, because you're not going to find stuff priced like this on eBay at buy it now prices. So you're going to have to negotiate a little bit to try to find stuff. But his name was just intriguing. He's popular, plays on a really good team, and maybe finally bounces back again. If he does, I would imagine his stuff would spike pretty hard. Last but not least, the one we're going to look at is one Mr. Juan Soto. Yes, he hit 231, but he was impacted by this. His stuff has already taken off. His stuff's already been creeping up. It has nothing to do with the shift. The interesting part that I found here, and we don't really need to talk about Soto a ton from that. We all know that he's awesome. His first Bowman stuff has been getting a lot of run lately. The last month or so, it has really crept up. I ran this back to October 1st, just to kind of take in the whole MLB offseason. His first Bowman BGS 9.5 is up 20%. PSA 10, same card, also up 20%. All his other stuff is down slightly from October 1st. Pink Refractor, down 10%. Rainbow Foil, down 10%. Topps Chrome Update, just his base, down 15%. Bowman's Best Auto for another on-card rookie auto, down 10%. I do own that card on this list. That's the only card I own of the Soto PSA 10s. I've had pinks in the past, but I sold them both off. So it's just intriguing to see that his first Bowmans have gotten a lot of heat lately, but it's not dragging the other stuff along yet. So the main takeaway here isn't so much about the shift on Soto, though he could be impacted by the shift going away. I just more found it interesting that his first Bowmans have been climbing, but the rest of his mainline stuff has not been getting dragged along with it. So maybe it sees a little bit of a catch up at some point in time. I don't know. It's Soto. He's always going to be really popular. I'm really hoping for a huge year from him now that he is in place in San Diego. Get Tatis back in that lineup. He gets to start there from the beginning of the season. Hopefully he has a good spring training and can really start the season hot with that really, really good team about him. His stuff could go nuclear if he plays really well. If he struggles at all, his prices will fall and fall fast. They're not going to crash, but they're going to fall. A lot of expectations built in the Soto. It's a dangerous game buying him on the run up into the season. But like I said, I just found it intriguing that his Bowmans have jumped up, but his base, not base, we're talking refractors and stuff, but his mainline 2018 stuff has not moved at all. So that's all I have for you guys and girls today. Who on this list intrigues you the most? Was there anyone that I left off? I encourage you to go check out this article. Like I said, thought it was pretty informative and just an interesting angle to take with the upcoming MLB season and these rule changes coming into effect. A lot of people, if you're really hardcore in the baseball, you knew these were coming. A lot of people that are casually in it might not realize this, so there could be a little bit of an edge there. So go mine that list, see what names pop out to you. We will catch you guys and girls on the next one. Peace.